MetaCert. This is a quick demo to show you what a well-crafted phishing email looks like. I actually just received this morning, 9th of June 2021, and the time is 9:19. Excuse me. So I got this. This seems to be the annual phishing email that I get from Apple. I get lots of phishing emails because I think people are trying to test me half the time. But if I look at this one, it's pretty well designed. There's no spelling mistakes or anything. Now here's what typically happens. I've got MetaCert installed, which is a browser-based security service. So it gives full desktop protection. But I'm showing you this because when you use Gmail, it annotates every link with a tiny shield. Green means it's verified, it's authenticated. Red means it's definitely dangerous. And gray means you should absolutely stop and think twice, especially if it's a main brand. So here, when I receive the email, I notice that there's a gray shield beside every one of these links. And that's what happens a lot in good phishing emails. A lot of people, when they're trying to find signs of danger, they won't click on the call to action because they'll assume that's dangerous or potentially dangerous. So they'll go to all of these other links, like in the footer, and click on those and make sure the website is safe before they click on the call to action, which is not the right thing to do because, as you can see, these are all green, which means they're authenticated. And this call to action is gray. So I know immediately that this is probably a phishing scam because I'm pretty certain MetaCert has classified all of the most important domains that belong to Apple. So when I hover over, it doesn't necessarily tell me the destination. So if you look down here, right down here, when I hover over the link, it's going to appear and it says apple.co. Now, obviously, Apple doesn't own a .co TLD, but a lot of companies do. So it's difficult to know whether or not this is real or fake. And in the context of, say, mobile malware and SMS scams that lead to problems like FluBot, this is a serious issue because major mobile brands actually use .co in their URL shortening services inside text messages. So people are expecting to see .co a lot of the time. And if they don't, then they'll just ignore everything with .co. Now, again, when I hover over, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to end up there. That represents the URL that this belongs to, or the URL that this link belongs to, but it could redirect. And what typically happens is it will redirect to either a legitimate website or a phishing website or a site that asks me to install malware. And that's all decided based on my device, my location, my IP address for my location. It could be user behavior. But basically, if you watching this video were to click on this link, you would probably end up or could end up on a different website depending on where you are and what device you use. Like FluBot, if you open it up on an iPhone, it probably redirects you to a phishing site that encourages you to give away your personal information or financial information. But when you're on Android, it encourages you to install malware because it only works on Android. So in this instance, with MetaCert here, look, I can see that there's actually 4 unknowns, which means that this is absolutely a phishing email. But I've already clicked on this, so I know what's going to happen. So I'm going to click on it now to show you. And actually, I've cut out, unfortunately, the URL bar of my browser in this video, but it is actually apple.com. This is the legitimate website for Apple. So it's obviously done something different for me. And I know it definitely is Apple because the green shield over here from MetaCert. So that's authenticated. So I know I don't have to even look at the domain name. But what I wanted to show again is phishing emails are extremely difficult to detect. In this instance, this one's pretty easy for me anyway. But it might not be for a lot of people because I actually used to buy all of MetaCert's Apple equipment in Union Square at the Apple Store, and it was from the business team. So a lot of people might actually look at this and think, well, that seems legitimate, and the rest of it looks legitimate. So there's no reason to believe that this is a phishing email in the eyes of many people. And so when it comes to mobile, it's even easier for criminals because they just have to build tiny web pages. And they only have to include a couple of words inside a text message and a deceptive URL. That's why SMS is now going to be way more successful than email as a delivery mechanism for criminals that want to attack corporations, municipalities, and hospitals with ransomware attacks. So again, with email, don't assume to know you're facing a legitimate or phishing email, because most of the things that phishing companies teach you are actually wrong. So just be careful out there. Okay, so this is a little weird. Um, After recording that video, I took a closer look at the website, and actually, apple.co is a legitimate Apple domain name, which is so weird because every link in the email goes to .com, and then the two calls to action links, or the four, go to .co. They're the perfect hallmark signs of a phishing email. You never use different TLDs for the calls to action. You don't even use a different one to your main branded one. And not only that, but a lot of email security systems will filter out and block every single email that comes from a .co address. And not just that, they'll also filter out, block every email that contains a link with a .co that ends in .co. So Apple's approach here is just so weird and really not in the best interest of security. And it just trains people to do all kinds of weird things when it comes to checking for danger signs inside of an email. Like, so what are we supposed to look for? And if you look at the email address that it comes from, it is, let me read it out to you. It is Union Square SF Business at email.apple.com. Who in their right mind is going to trust an email from that kind of address? So if that's a legitimate email, how are any Apple customers supposed to know the difference between a phishing email and a legitimate email? Is it any wonder that 2020 is the worst year in history for phishing, according to the FBI? So weird.